I hope that we make the exception this week, because if we don't, we'll get beat. We've got to play as well as we can play to beat Maryland. I think we have an intelligent group of young men, and I know that when they look at the film, that's what they're going to see. They know that they're going to have to be as good as we can be to beat Maryland. I know it's tough to do that. It's going to be tough on them because it's homecoming and there's a lot of distractions around. But you know, I'm the kind of guy. I don't feel like anything's impossible. I'm going to ask them to be at their best come Saturday at 1 o'clock.
I really don't know how we're going to do it, because it's obvious that we can't be as emotional as we were last week against Florida. But we're going to have to just put our minds to it and say that this game will keep us from winning the national championship if at the end of the year we would have a chance. And they can't keep us from going to the Sugar Bowl, but we would like more than that, even though that's our #1 goal, is to make it to the Sugar Bowl and win the conference. We'd like more than that, and to get more than that, we have to win this game.
The Tigers hit a tremendous emotional high last Saturday in their win over Florida. It would only be fitting to have a weak sister scheduled for this Saturday's homecoming game. But no such luck. 7th-ranked Maryland looms dead ahead, and Auburn must avoid a letdown.
We've got to play as well as we can play to beat Maryland. I think we have an intelligent group of young men, and I know that when they look at the film, that's what they're going to see. They know that they're going to have to be as good as we can be to beat Maryland.
And they can't keep us from going to the Sugar Bowl, but we would like more than that, even though that's our #1 goal, is to make it to the Sugar Bowl and win the conference. We'd like more than that, and to get more than that, we have to win this game.
Every time you play a team that's in the top 10, that's incentive enough to win. Maryland's a great team. We have to keep our defense off the field. You know, offensively, we just have to play an outstanding game again this week.
The Terps, like Florida last week, feature an accomplished passing attack with Heisman Trophy candidate Boomer Esiason at the throttle. It presents another great challenge for the Auburn defense.
His favorite pass is the deep pattern because of his strong arm. He can throw the ball, I guess, about 85 yards in the air. And that's his favorite pass, and he likes to scramble a lot and find the second receivers, and that's going to cause a problem for the secondary if we don't stay with our man.
He can do so many things to hurt you. He's such a great leader on the field, and I think that Maryland's offense pretty much molds around him. And it's evident that when he's in the game, they seem to put forth that extra effort for him.
Saturday's homecoming kickoff has been moved from the customary 1:30 to 1 o'clock. There will be no network TV, but the game will be carried on pay-for-view cable. It will be available to some cable subscribers within a 120-mile radius of Auburn. Would-be viewers should contact their cable company for hookup information.
Montgomery fans will get their first look at the most publicized pair in the talented class, Prep All-Americans Frank Ford of Kissimmee, Florida, and Gerald White of Augusta, Georgia. White's quickness and overall athletic ability will allow Auburn the full court press, something they've not had in recent years. Ford, number 15, one of the most sought-after players in the country, will add scoring and even rebounding from the guard position with his 6'4" size and jumping ability. But as talented as the freshmen are, they'll be brought along slowly, according to Tigers big man Charles Barkley.
Well, I think Coach Smith is relying mainly on me and Greg and Paul and Chuck in the earlier half of the season, and he wants to bring them along slowly. He's already put a lot of responsibilities on us to be leaders. So if we can just start off real well and bring them along slowly, I think we'll be all right in the SEC.
I'll probably be later at 2:30. January what?
No.
11th, 1930.
So It would probably take officials at Maxwell and Gunner several weeks to explain what the Air Force does in the Montgomery area. All they had was several hours. So reporters were given a few highlights during Media Day. Air University was showcasing the National Security Briefing Team, which calls Maxwell home. The team travels across the country informing civilians about the Soviet threat and answering tough questions about current events.
We felt very strongly that there were Americans on Grenada who were in jeopardy. And I think that the media has seen what many of those people have said as they've come back. Some of those students got off that aircraft and kissed the ground. They were so happy to be back in the U.S.
The 908 Tactical Airlift Group gave reporters a taste of what it's like to fly in their recently acquired C-130 aircraft and make a pitch that the unit is looking for a few good navigators or college graduates who might want to join the reserves. The C-130 landed safely, but in this drill, an F-16 supposedly crashed next to the Maxwell runway. Maxwell officials wanted reporters to know how the Air Force responds to emergency situations and educate the news gatherers how information on a plane crash will be relayed to reporters. Maxwell officials know they could only scratch the surface on what goes on at the military bases in a few hours' time, but they hope reporters learned enough today to return for more information and stories in the future. Don Phelps on the Military Beat.
Hamilton told Judge Varner he and Missy Devon were riding around talking about some problems they were having when he made the decision to take her across the Georgia state line and leave her in a wooded area. He said Ms. Devon had no idea he intended to leave her when she entered the car with him. Attorney said that would satisfy the conditions necessary for the federal kidnapping charge. Hamilton signed an agreement with State Attorney General Charles Graddick to take him to where he left Ms. Devon's body, somewhere near LaGrange, Georgia. In the agreement, Mr. Graddick said he would recommend to a circuit court judge that Hamilton receive a life sentence, but only if he took officers to Ms. Devon's body. This is not the first time Hamilton's been to Georgia to lead officers to the body, and not the first time officers have searched on their own. They've conducted searches from Noonan, Georgia to the Macon County, Alabama line, but no success. In the agreement with Hamilton, the Attorney General stated that the agreement is binding only if Ms. Devon's body is found at Hamilton's direction. The Attorney General has filed legal papers to have Hamilton transferred to his custody for the next search. There's no word on when that search will take place. Mac Carmack, WSFA TV News.
You filled up with the sign. That's the main thing. That's right.
That's just above my signature. You know, another thing is these are different than last year. Last year they had coupon securities that were attached, and now they're all.
To find those securities was a tremendous job, and to match them up with what we needed on the sort of notices, that was just fantastic, I think. And of course, here. So if you remember your color, you can't miss it. The man who has the most is Mac. That's what you did.
You filled up with the sign. That's the main thing.
That's right.
That's just above my signature, I guess is what they want.
To match them up with what we needed on the sort of notices, that was just fantastic, I think.
Justice Adams, Maddox, Faulkner, and Embry concur. Torbett concurs specially. Since we hit the last 5 pages,
Herschel Christian is determined to make council life peaceful for the next 4 years, and as he says, leave all the fussing behind. Mr. Christian says if he has any problems, he'll go straight to the mayor, but he won't be Mayor Fulmer's rubber stamp, something Willie Peake accused him of. The outgoing council president made this challenge to new and old council members alike.
And I just hope that other members of the council down here are willing to speak up, and I hope that they're willing to vote their convictions and to stand firm on what they believe. And if they'll do that, then the council itself will survive and will be strong.
The other new faces on the council, Billy Turner, District 2, Joseph Dickerson, District 5, and Lou Hammonds, District 6. All 9 council members meet next Tuesday morning to reorganize and elect a new council president. Mr. Christian says he's talked to some of the other council members and thinks Elise Reynolds of District 7 will be the majority's choice for the council presidency. Susan Silvernail, WSFA TV News.
You know, just about everyone uses some kind, or they experiment, because it's everywhere. You can get whatever you want.
It's hard, because everywhere you go, it's drugs and chemicals and all this is slapping you in your face all the time.
What these high school students are saying shouldn't be surprising. Nearly every student everywhere probably can attest to their comments.
I felt it was destructive, but it was something that only a fool could do. And my daughter was bright. She knew better.
I was naive, and I preferred not to think of it as him having a drug problem, but probably an academic problem.
What these parents are saying also shouldn't be surprising. Their comments are part of the denial stage the parents of kids on alcohol and drugs go through.
Tonight,
the hour-long program deals with the facts about school-age children on alcohol and drugs and those who've experienced them firsthand. A National Drug Institute survey shows alcohol is the #1 drug choice, tried by 93% of high school seniors nationwide. Marijuana is the second choice, smoked by 189,000 high school seniors.
It's not a good party if the people don't serve beer or wine or something.
First Lady Nancy Reagan is leading the crusade against drug and alcohol abuse among the young. She's hoping parents and students will watch the 2-part series and join a local campaign to fight what experts say is an epidemic. Kim Davis, WSFA TV News.
It was a mixture of the old and new playing well tonight. Leading the Blues, consisting mostly of veterans, was the big man Charles Barkley, 2 of his game-high 30 off the slam. Sophomore Chuck Person added 16, 2 there on the outside jumper. Senior Greg Turner had 14 for the Blues. He'll score here off the nice ball movement. But most of those in attendance were interested in the heralded freshman class, and sharing high point honors for the Whites was frosh guard Gerald White with 18, most from long range like that one. Freshman forward Terry Martin added 12. He'll score here off the steal, and he drew the foul. Another newcomer, junior college transfer Kerry Holland, added 11. He'll score 2 there with the inside bucket. The Blues beat the Whites 93-79. Coach Sonny Smith not real pleased with his team's progress so far.
We're way behind because of injuries, because we're not running anything offensively and defensively that we would be this time of the year. So tonight we just played a straight man-for-man defense because we're so far behind. But I'm well pleased with about 7 of our guys, but we need to get 9 people ready to play, and right now we don't have 9 ready to play, so I'd consider us way behind schedule.
The Tigers open the regular season with an exhibition game on campus November 18th against Marathon Oil. The real thing will go November the 28th against Columbus College in Auburn. Rick Pons, WSFA TV Sports at AUM.
Today's decision ends more than a year's worth of debate in the legislature and more recently in the courts over the proposed rewrite of the 1901 Constitution. Reporters were called to the Supreme Court this morning for the decision, a 6-3 vote. The court ruled that the Constitution proposed by the legislature has not been properly submitted. The court ruled a constitutional convention is the only means for revision. Representative Rick Manley of Demopolis, who filed the suit, says he was naturally happy. But Lieutenant Governor Bill Baxley, who pushed for the new document, says he's naturally disappointed.
We didn't take this route to change it haphazardly or
ramrodding it through like some people seem to think.
Mr. Baxley says he's not sure whether to attack another effort to rewrite the Constitution.
I'll have to give that some thought.
Saying it might be like beating your head against a wall. And Mr. Manley, who says he doesn't see any problem with the present Constitution, thinks any changes should be offered article by article. But while this argument has been underway, the state has been advertising the proposed document in each county, nearly $500,000 worth of advertising. But the state hasn't been billed yet, and now questions are surfacing about whether the state can honor that debt. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News.
You know, LSU is a team that's had some things go against them, break-wise. They've made some mistakes. They've lost a couple of games in the kicking game. But they are certainly capable of putting a game together and playing absolutely great football, and we're going to have to be ready for that.
We've watched films on them, and we see the potential that they have to be a great defense. They're a little inexperienced in spots, but we're not taking them lightly in any sense.
They're really good. They're really good. We watched films, just started this a couple days ago, and they're impressive. By far the best defense we face this year.
They beat themselves money this year just on little mistakes that they've made either in the kicking game, offensively fumbles and interceptions, or defensively just not stopping a big play. But I guarantee LSU's a football team, and they're going to come out and just want to beat Alabama real bad.
LSU also have a real big offensive line. They're quick. They got great backs, and we just got to be ready to play Saturday.
Anybody with any sense can watch the films and just, they're really an overpowering team. Nobody really drives the ball on them. They've had a few big plays that's hurt them. But, they're really an awesome group, real big and strong men.
As Alabama prepares for LSU this Saturday in Baton Rouge, thoughts have to go back to Birmingham about this time last year when the Tigers handed the Crimson Tide a humiliating defeat. Not only was the loss embarrassing, but it set the Tide in a tailspin in which they lost 3 straight games. Coach Ray Perkins hopes to avoid all that this year.
We've reminded ourselves somewhat, but I think the way that we reacted after the 2 losses and through that open date and coming back and playing the way we played against Mississippi State, even though it wasn't a pretty victory, we played in spots better than we have all year. I know that we played with more reckless abandon and better hitting on defense than we have in any game this year, which is a big key for us, I think.
Any extra incentive for playing LSU this year, considering they beat Alabama last year?
Well, I think the incentive is just that, not just because they beat us last year, but how they beat us. I mean, it was much worse than the 20-10 score would indicate.
I think it's a big incentive, especially for the offensive line. People say that we would beat physically, and I agree. I think we were, and I think we're a little bit stronger in physically and mentally this year. So I'm looking forward to going down there and see what we can do.
I think our tailspin this year is already ended. I think, with the loss of Penn State and Tennessee, I think that we've decided that, hey, let's go. It's uphill from here on out. And I think that tailspin we had last year was just something that it happens and occurs. And we're going to try not to let that happen again this year.
Playing in LSU's Tiger Den will be no fun, but the Crimson Tide did get a break from TV. Kickoff has been moved from 7:30 to 11:30 a.m. to accommodate ABC. And Coach Perkins says that should help because maybe the rowdy Bengal fans won't be cranked up quite as much that early. Rick Pons, WSFA TV Sports, Tuscaloosa.
Members of the procurement mission used the House chamber at the state capitol to open bids from several companies interested in selling Alabama-grown soybeans to the Taiwanese. Governor Wallace joined the ceremonies as a witness. The governor had announced the proposed soybean deal last month while he was in Taiwan. A contract was signed on the spot with Mississippi Farmers Marketing Cooperative for $18.6 million worth of soybeans. The total of 56,000 metric tons of beans will be shipped to Taiwan in February and March. Governor Wallace was quick to point out that even though the contract is with the Mississippi firm, the soybeans that will be shipped to the Republic of China were grown in Alabama. The delegation also received greeting from Lieutenant Governor Bill Baxley. Later, the mission paid a formal visit to Governor Wallace in his office. Vice Minister Wu of the Ministry of Economic Affairs presented the governor with a pear-shaped vase, and the governor presented members of the procurement mission certificates of honorary citizenship, and he promised to appoint them honorary lieutenant colonels in the state militia. The 32 members of the mission will end the day with a dinner at a local Chinese restaurant. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News.
Go back and try and research your personal records. Of course, they were burned along with hundreds of thousands of others in a major fire in St. Louis. But through a check of unit records, we've
try to increase their gross national product toward the matter of defense effort. You're mighty kind. Thank you very much.
Certainly will.
Yeah. The voluntary friendship that exists now between the people of Japan and the people of the United States of America, I hope, is everlasting.
Members of the procurement mission used the House chamber at the state capitol to open bids from several companies interested in selling Alabama-grown soybeans to the Taiwanese. Governor Wallace joined the ceremonies as a witness. The governor had announced the proposed soybean deal last month while he was in Taiwan. A contract was signed on the spot with Mississippi Farmers Marketing Cooperative for $18.6 million worth of soybeans. The total of 56,000 metric tons of beans will be shipped to Taiwan in February and March. Governor Wallace was quick to point out that even though the contract is with the Mississippi firm, the soybeans that will be shipped to the Republic of China were grown in Alabama. The delegation also received greeting from Lieutenant Governor Bill Baxley. Later, the mission paid a formal visit to Governor Wallace in his office. Vice Minister Wu of the Ministry of Economic Affairs presented the governor with a pear-shaped vase, and the governor presented members of the procurement mission certificates of honorary citizenship, and he promised to appoint them honorary lieutenant colonels in the state militia. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News.
The year is 1958, quite a year for aviation in the United States. In fact, it was the year NASA was formed, the year the Explorer 1 satellite was launched, and the year the U.S. fired its first moon rocket, which, by the way, fell short of its target by about 200,000 miles. Van Cliburn won the Moscow Tchaikovsky piano competition, while at home, these were a couple of the top songs of the year 1958.
Dream, 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 dream.
David Niven won the Academy Award for Best Actor in Separate Tables, while Gigi was the Best Picture of the Year. Arnold Palmer won the Masters. LSU was the #1 college football team in the country in 1958. And Pete Dawkins from Army won the Heisman Trophy. And that's a quick look back at 1958.
The announcement of Dr. Leon Howard came after a 2-hour executive session. During that time, the trustees discussed each of 5 applicants, including 3 from the university, Doctors Dean Edmonds, Eunice Moore, and Robert Stone. The 4th candidate was Dr. Carl Mulberry from Stillman College. After unanimously adopting a resolution to pay outgoing president Dr. Randolph's annual and sick leave from now until the end of the year, trustee chairman Dr. LaRue Harding entertained a motion to name the interim successor.
Mayor Hayden.
I'd like to move that the Board of Trustees of Alabama State University appoint Dr. Leon Howard to be interim president of Alabama State University, who shall serve as its chief executive officer of the university and do other exercises with all the powers and authority conferred upon him by statute, law, rule, or regulations relating thereto.
Do I hear a second?
Second. Dr. Howard didn't attend today's meeting. He's still at Jackson State University in Mississippi, serving as the Assistant Dean of Academic Affairs. He's expected to begin official duties within the next 10 days. The president's office will be ready. Dr. Randolph cleared his desk last week. He's still in Montgomery and is expected to be a consultant to the interim president. In the meantime, a search committee will soon begin looking for a permanent president for Alabama State. Kim Davis, WSFA TV News.
Governor Wallace is asking the court to clear up several questions about how soon the new legislature can be called into special session following the upcoming election. Questions raised by the general confusion of redrawing Alabama's legislative districts.
We do have an emergency problem involved the matter of prisoners, prison problem. And we are doing everything we can in order to see that No prisoners are turned loose in this state by anyone, by a federal judge or anyone else.
Once the governor does call the legislature, he says he'll be talking money to open one prison that's already been built in North Alabama, and then some.
We are going to need more than West Jefferson and the new prison in Limestone County. And we're going to ask that around $7 million of this money be for capital outlay for the building of a new prison, getting ready to take those 150 people per month that are coming into the system.
The governor will not say where the new prison might be located, and he admits this is a short-range solution to prison overcrowding. While there is still no clear timetable as to when the state's prison problems will be solved, the governor says he wants them solved as soon as possible. And while that raises the possibility of a lame duck legislative session before the end of the year, the governor is still indicating that's the last thing he wants. Tom Foreman, WSFA TV News at the Capitol.
It was just yesterday that Jerry Hamilton pled guilty to federal kidnapping charges and received a life sentence. This morning, after being placed in the custody of Alabama Attorney General Charles Graddick, Hamilton led officers to a wooded area of Harris County, Georgia, near West Point. He told officers this was the last place he saw Ms. Devon. The first sign of the woman, a pair of sunglasses, was found by Forensic Sciences agent Carl Murdoch. The glasses matched the description of a pair owned by the missing court reporter. In just minutes, Troup County Sheriff Gene Jones radioed officers he had found some clothing and the skeletal remains of what he thought was a human. Examining the clothing and personal effects, Forensic Sciences agents said they matched the description of those worn by Ms. Devon when she was last seen alive. It still may be a couple of days before a positive identification can be made through dental records, but officers say they feel sure the remains will be those of Missy Devon. However, today's events will not end the story.
We are going to file what is called a solicitor's information in Lee County. He will plead guilty to that solicitor's information after it stays in the court for 3 days. We will recommend life in the penitentiary, recommend that he be able to serve his time in the federal penitentiary, and of course we'll place detainers on him if for ever that he's released from the federal pen, we can bring him back to the Alabama correction system.
Hamilton will probably appear in court the middle of next week.
A little bit more clarity here. You turned Hanks at 7.
At this point, for a total for this group.
Would like to get rid of that gift that he got last week right now.
It's not beautiful in gold anymore, but it gives me great pleasure to present this to you.
The way it appears to me now,
you got a $700,000 debt.
I still owe $700,000, but we've moved to within field goal range. However, we got to have a touchdown. The attorneys are at 44.3% of their goals, CPAs at 66.3%, the clergy at 66.5%, the dentist at 72.3%, the physicians at 6%. Dr. Williams.
Point out that the court's position was supported in a brief amicus filed in the case by 6 members of our league staff. This represents some 380 man-hours of preparation for today. 1-2 vote, I guess. One vote said no. That no vote says, no, you can't.
I want you to know within the organization. And let me just say, in the past year, it started a year ago with Coleman.
Welcome to our host city of Montgomery, Alabama.
We knew he was shopping a couple weeks ago. You took Stan Tarleton's place, didn't you? But a roller.
I mean, the issues that we're talking about are not for blacks only. We're talking about a rainbow coalition. We're talking about a plan to stop plants from being closed in this country. A plan wherein if we invest government money in these corporations, that they are obligated to reinvest and reindustrialize in this economy and not take our jobs to slave labor markets abroad. The great issues of this day are not going to be simply ethnic interest issues.
Representative Bob McKee is here with us today also, and the legislature, and file a bill in the legislature to stop this action. And one of those was to carry this to the legislature and let the people of Alabama. It basically says that it shall be illegal. We believe since the University of Alabama receives state funds, receives activity fees from students, and the 15,000 students on campus, by their allowing the gay group to meet on campus, we are subsidizing their beliefs, what we consider to be wrong in our eyes.
They're going to be fighting for.
Fields, which used to be, Alabama used to be a member of, has ruled that
activities during their meeting?
No, not at the meeting. We have psychiatric. We've had a debate.
If we had 9 John Adams on the Supreme Court, it wouldn't be unconstitutional. And whether it is or not, there's only one authority higher than the Constitution as far as I'm concerned, and according to that authority, I'm right.
Because normally you don't receive the state appropriation until the end of the month. So the
University, who shall serve as its chief executive officer of the university and do other laboratory courses.
Pays Dr. Randolph is approved favor of going now into executive session. Mayor Hayden.
I'd like to move that the Board of Trustees of Alabama State University appoint Dr. Leon Howard
One theory that I had, and that is that they wouldn't need authority.
Up until this season, not many Alabama fans were familiar with Preston Gothard. The walk-on tight end from Montgomery by way of Lowndes Academy had logged very little playing time. But 4 weeks ago, when the Crimson Tides lost to Penn State, everybody knew Preston Gothard. He's the one that caught the controversial non-catch that denied Alabama a come-from-behind win over the Nittany Lions.
The media has really lived off. It's been a very controversial thing, and, you know, the media really jumped on it, and I just happened to be right in the middle of it, and I hate to be remembered or even thought about as something that happened that didn't really count, but I'm just pleased to be contributing and helping the team out.
Preston's play against Penn State earned the junior his first college start the next week against Tennessee. And last week against Mississippi State, he caught his first touchdown pass. So far, it's the thrill of his career.
It's first of my career here, and it's been since high school since I scored, so I was real happy.
Preston has proved a point in his short career at Alabama. He's shown that a walk-on does have a chance, not just to make the team, but to play.
It was always a dream to play here. I came on as a tight end, and I just wanted to make it here. You know, football at Alabama for years has been a way of life here, and I just wanted to be part of that.
You have quite a few walk-ons that make it at different schools, but I think that's a little more incentive. I think that shows that he wants it a little bit more than most people, and he's going to take that extra step when a lot of people would not. He's a very dependable, very smart. He knows how to use the athletic skills that he has. He knows what his limitations are, and he don't go beyond them. He's a winning football player, Preston Gothard.
Rick Pons, WSFA TV Sports.
This is a WSFA TV News special report.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Grimshaw. This just in, accused murderer Jerry Hamilton has led Alabama and Georgia authorities to the skeletal remains of a body believed to be that of Missy Devon, the missing Montgomery County court reporter who's been missing since April the 11th. The skeletal remains were found off Harris County Road in Georgia, about 4 miles east of the Alabama-Georgia line. That happened some several hours ago. It took a couple of hours for the authorities to be led directly to the skeletal remains of the body. There are circumstantial evidences that the body is that of Mrs. Devon, but the forensic science officials are now gathering evidence to make a positive identification. Mr. Hamilton led the authorities to the skeletal remains following a plea bargaining arrangement with the federal and state authorities. He has already been found guilty in federal court of kidnapping Miss Devon and faces charges of murder of Miss Devon. Again, the skeletal remains of a woman believed to be that of Missy Devon have been located in Georgia about 4 miles west of the Alabama-Georgia line. We'll have full details tonight at 6, and we now join our regularly scheduled program.
The body was found next to the river outlet of a sewage treatment plant by people searching for the truck belonging to a Montgomery man, Jimmy Bouchelon, who was reported missing last Friday night.
Deputies, and along with Montgomery Police Department and Prattville Police Department and state officers, searched the area and found the body of a white male between 20 and 30 years old. A positive identification hadn't been found yet. We will say that we feel that the death was caused by foul play. Other than that, right now, there's really not much we can say about it.
Metal detectors from the Montgomery Police Department were used to gather evidence at the scene. Authorities reported finding some objects but wouldn't elaborate. They say there was no identification on the body, which was found face down, partially covered by brush and limbs. The body was removed from the scene, and authorities say an autopsy will be performed to determine the actual cause of death. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News, Autauga County.
When Lanier and Carver get together tomorrow night in Crampton Bowl for their season finale, nothing will really be on the line except pride. These two city rivals have not had good seasons. They would love to go out on a winning note. For Lanier, a 5-4 record isn't that discouraging. 3 of the Poets' losses came to top 10 4A powers. Nevertheless, Coach Charles Sykes had hope for better.
I feel like our schedule had a lot to do with it, and then we started this year. We didn't have very many experienced offensive players. We came out the first year, and we had on our quarterback that had started on offense.
Over at Carver, this loss last week in overtime to Carroll of Ozark is indicative of the Wolverines season. So close, yet so far away. Coach Davis Brockett certainly hoped for better than 2-7.
Is that in the pressure situations, when it came down to doing the normal things, the things to do to win, we didn't do those things. We worked on them in practice, but when we got in the situation in the game, our kids didn't do those normal things that you have to do to win.
Tomorrow night is Lanier. Now, a win wouldn't make a winning season for you, but it would sure make things a lot sweeter.
Well, particularly with Lanier, that's a family fight. We're right here where we can throw a rock and hit them over there, and our kids and their kids come all the way a lot of times through elementary school together until they get to high school and on a first-name basis. So it's always a special game with two schools being as close as they are and everybody knowing everybody.
You play a city team, you throw out all the records. Carver's got some real fine athletes. They got several tremendous athletes. And we're going to have to play better than we've played, I feel like, to win, because I know they're going to want to win it, and our kids are going to want to win it. Should be a heck of a ball game if we play well.
Pride and bragging rights always on the line in a city rivalry. The Poets and Wolverines go at it 7:30 tomorrow night from Crampton Bowl. Rick Pons, WSFA TV Sports.
The University of Maryland in dark is hot thanks to number 7, quarterback Boomer Esiason, who hit Rick Bodonic, number 40, and a touchdown last week over North Carolina. Esiason has led Maryland to a 7-1 record, a number 7 ranking in the country, with over 1,500 yards passing and 10 touchdowns, and that big win over the Tar Heels.
North Carolina game was an emotional football game. There was no question about that. That was evidenced by the scene of humanity down on the field after the game was over. They are our biggest rival, but you know, that game is over now, and we just have to get up for another third-ranked team in the Auburn Tigers. And we realize it's going to be 77,000 people down there, and in their stadium it's going to be their homecoming. So it's not too hard to get up for a team such as Auburn.
Auburn is also 7-1, and the Tigers' running game is explosive. Number 34 is Bo Jackson. Crashes over the middle, sprints to the outside. Jackson has 9 touchdowns and is good for more than 7 yards every time he gets his hands on the football. If they key on Jackson, Auburn can go to number 6, Lionel James. He averages 6 yards per carry, and that means the Auburn-Maryland game will be exciting. Jack O'Rourke, NBC News, reporting.
The year is 1959, and all America was listening to songs like these.
Put your head on my shoulder, hold me in your arms, baby. I'll never let you go. Why? Because I love you.
At the movies, Ben-Hur swept the Academy Awards. Charlton Heston and William Wyler won for Best Actor and Best Director, and Ben-Hur was the best film of the year. Alaska became the 49th state in the Union. Fidel Castro took over the island of Cuba from Batista, and Ian Fleming wrote Goldfinger. The U.S. Postmaster General also, in 1959, banned the book Lady Chatterley's Lover. Nikita Khrushchev visited the United States and became distraught over not being allowed to visit Disneyland, but he did like the hot dogs. And on August 21st, Hawaii became the 50th state. And that's a look back on the year 1959.
And now we're going to ask our meeting, we want to always have
my special delight and thanks to the President. Boats that are stuck on the bottom being released and freed. Boats on the bottom full of untapped resources, unpolished.
Local black leaders greeted Reverend Jackson with that familiar chant heard months before he made his bid for president official yesterday. Reverend Jackson is no stranger to Alabama State. He came last spring, campaigning for a nationwide voter registration drive. Today, he reminded the students of the importance of that visit.
I told you if you would register in mass, be prepared to vote in mass, we could put this nation on a new course.
Reverend Jackson's bid for the presidency is seen by some as a way to encourage millions to register. Millions he refers to as the Rainbow Coalition.
Blacks, whites, Hispanics, Indians, old people, teenagers, Filipino Americans, Chinese Americans.
Reverend Jackson didn't talk so much about the issues in the campaign, but rather the calling to run. He claims victory is not impossible if the masses of his coalition turn out and vote.
And I tell you, if we use our power, use our minds, we can win. When I think about our numbers, members of our coalition, we can win.
He left the campus shaking students' hands, hands he may need one day pulling levers at the polls. Kim Davis, WSFA TV News at Alabama State University.
Investigator for Talca County Sheriff's Department, which entails investigating drugs, homicide.
Just a short question.
I don't know where he is today. You took Stan Tarleton's place, didn't you? But
was, or at least an area where he thought she was. And if we found her, like we could go into court and successfully prosecute. Opelika. we will file our information in Opelika because that is the evidence that we have that the crime commenced in the state of Alabama in Lee County, Alabama. Whether or not he stabbed her twice or 10 times, we'll never know, but we do know one thing, is that he killed her, and he killed her in a very vicious way.
Members of the Watauga County Sheriff's Department are running down clues, hopefully to answer some key questions in the case. For example, where's the truck Bouchelon was driving Friday night? And why was he in that secluded area of the county?
We do believe it might have been a drug-related meeting, buy situation that went bad one way or another, and Mr. Bouchelon wound up dead.
From evidence taken at the crime scene, investigators say Mr. Bouchelon's body had been moved and that he'd been shot a total of 6 times in the head and chest with a .25 caliber pistol. What does that indicate to you?
Well, to me personally, if somebody takes the time to shoot somebody 6 different times, it was a very cold-blooded murder.
Investigators say it's just pure speculation that Mr. Bouchelon died as a result of a drug deal gone sour. But they do say they have several good leads in the case and some suspects they want to talk to. And they are hopeful they'll make an arrest soon. Don Phelps, WSFA TV News, Watauga County.
More than $41 million has been tied up in 2 lawsuits which challenge changes in the state's oil and gas severance tax. The battle over the lawsuits led to a series of secret settlement meetings with the Wallace administration as it came into office with financially strapped pocketbooks. But the oil companies and the administration couldn't come to terms, and the lawsuits continued. Today, the state Supreme Court ruled in favor of the state, freeing more than $4 million tied up because of changes made in the 1979 tax. But the state says it won't spend any of that money until the deadline for the oil companies to appeal today's decision expires. That could be as late as December. But earlier this week, the appeals deadline expired for those oil companies on a separate suit over similar severance tax changes passed in 1980. Monday, the state will begin using its half of more than $37 million in that case. The other half of the money will be distributed to the counties and cities where the oil was produced. Now, Governor Wallace wants to use $15 million of the state's half of that tax money for prisons and renovation of the state capitol. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News.
And therefore, we are going to need...
It's been a little over 24 hours since the body of James Bouchelon was discovered in a wooded section of Watauga County, and the Sheriff's Department has reportedly made considerable headway in the case. Investigators say that Bouchelon's death was cold-blooded murder.
We did find out that Mr. Bouchelon was shot 6 times, 3 times in the head and 3 times in the chest. He had been reported missing a week ago today. Exact time of death, we're still waiting on the forensic science report on that.
This, like most homicide cases, has several unusual aspects. Probably the most unusual aspect is how police discovered Bouchelon's body.
The lady who first discovered the body in her statement said that she had a vision the night before on where the body was. And she went there to look and found the body and called her husband, who in turn called us immediately.
Investigator Rocchio says he believes that Bouchelon was killed when a drug deal went bad, but he doesn't have any hard evidence to back up his theory. Authorities say they're interested in talking with several people and hope to make an arrest in the case within a week. Don Phelps, WSFA TV News, Watauga County.
Thank you very much, Congress. Don't even have enough guts to vote against us. It decreed and maintained a 24-hour shoot-on-sight curfew for 4 solid days. It closed the airport. It thereby entrapped nearly 1,000 U.S. citizens, each one of them a potential hostage. And I don't know why the point. This happens to be, ladies and gentlemen, this happens to be the 4th anniversary of the seizure of the hostages in Tehran.
The problem, according to these striking Greyhound employees, is money and benefits. Greyhound wants to cut wages by 9.5% and cut back on benefits, making it a total decrease of about 17.5%. And these workers say they can't stand for that. They say they're willing to walk the picket line, even if it means losing their jobs.
Most of the employees are scared. This job represents probably in the Montgomery terminal and drivers represents an average of anywhere from 20 years service. Probably the lowest man that we have here is about 15 years service.
Greyhound is already taking applications. 250 have been filled out at the Montgomery office, but so far the company hasn't hired anyone. Company officials say they're giving the picketers 2 weeks to accept the contracts before they begin hiring new workers at lower wages. Gina Gregory, WSFA TV News.
They say that the terminal employees range anywhere from 20 to 25,000. I myself, I've never made over 20,000. I can't remember, but I don't think I've made up to 20,000. Now, I'm a terminal employee. We have drivers. Our highest paid driver probably will range 30 to 35,000 a year. Now, this is a man with over 30 years service. This is a man that pulls a regular run. He is doing a lot of extra work also. It's not just a payday job, it's extra work involved when he does make that much money.
Do you really believe that the company is as broke as they are saying they are and headed toward bankruptcy?
If the company was that broke, within the last few years.
The kicking game decided this annual shootout at Crampton Bowl. Second quarter, no score. Patrick Fenderson hauls in this Carver punt at his own 45. He'll head toward the right sidelines, break a couple of tackles, and streak down to the Wolverine 8 before finally going down. On the next play, it's Roderick Bikes taking the pitch from quarterback Stan Kirkland. He'll take it into the end zone. 7-0. Lanier led it where it stayed until halftime. Early third quarter now, Carver again to punt. Fenderson deep for the Poets. This time he's got it at his own 40. He'll head right, get some good blocking, cut back toward midfield, and before the Wolverines corral him, Fenderson is down to the 9. Next play, off the fake to the fullback. The pitch goes to Greg McCall, and he'll scamper in for the score. That made it 13-0 Lanier. They go on for a 19-0 win over crosstown rival Carver. Rick Pons, WSFA TV Sports, Crampton Bowl.
After a Trinity Academy fumble on its first possession, Montgomery Academy marches down the field with Travis Gordon going in for the final two, and Montgomery led it 7-0. Second quarter, Mike Crawford gets the first of his 2 field goals when this 32-yarder is good, cutting the lead to 7-3. Next possession for Montgomery, Jim Parker rabbles 43 yards for the TD. A 2-point conversion is good, and the score was 15-3. Just before the half, Trinity added its first touchdown to cut the Montgomery lead to 15-10.
For the third time this season, top 10 powers will get together in Auburn. This time, it's homecoming on the Plains as the third-ranked Tigers host number 7 Maryland. Coach Pat Dye admits there may be a motivational problem with his team after last week's emotional win over Florida.
I hope that the work that we've done and the demands that we've made on them have toughened them for the task that they got in front of them.
And that task involves stopping what appears to be a very good Maryland team. Led by Heisman Trophy candidate Boomer Esiason, the Terps come to town conceding nothing.
Our squad is a team of character, and we play hard. And if we play hard and we play with character, then, and I feel we will, I have no reason to believe that we won't, then I think we can make it a real good football game.
It's a 1 o'clock kickoff on the Plains tomorrow. Pay-per-view cable and closed-circuit telecasting will be available for Auburn, Maryland. Alabama ventures to Baton Rouge tomorrow for a regionally televised encounter with LSU. The Crimson Tide is still in the chase for the Southeastern Conference title, and a win over the stumbling Tigers is a must to keep those hopes alive. As incentive, Alabama well remembers last year's loss to LSU, in which the Tide offense was stymied, and the combination of Gary James and Dalton Hilliard ran at will. Coach Ray Perkins says stopping those two is the key to victory.
But I think the big key is to stop James and Hilliard. stop their running game first. But they do have the things that it takes as far as the running game and the quarterbacks and receivers in the passing game to complement and offset each other. It's just that they haven't got that consistency going as yet.
Alabama and LSU was scheduled for nighttime in Baton Rouge, but TV has moved the kickoff to 11:30 a.m. Rick Pons, WSFA TV Sports.
Oh, he's a great man, and really, he's a genuine man. I had the opportunity to stay with him several times. In fact, the business, he always called me last Wednesday. And he just a great man, and he's a warm man, and he always encouraged you to do well and keep going, don't get down.
When he called you last week, did he have anything in specific he talked to you about?
No, he just told me I was having a kind of tough time. He wanted to call me and see how I was doing, and told me just hang on in there.
The year is 1960. Richard Nixon, the Republican, debated John Kennedy, the Democrat. Subsequently, Kennedy is elected president. On May 1st, U-2 spy plane pilot Gary Francis Powers was shot down over the Soviet Union, sentenced to 10 years in a Russian jail, but freed in February the following year in a spy exchange. Back in the States, this is what popular music sounded like in 1960.
Oh, wild one, I'm gonna tame you down now. Tame you down.
In the postseason football games played after the 1960 season, Mississippi beat Rice in the Sugar Bowl and Duke beat Arkansas in the Cotton Bowl. Pittsburgh won the World Series in 7 games over the Yankees, and Burt Lancaster won Best Actor in the movie Elmer Gantry, while Elizabeth Taylor was Best Actress in Butterfield 8. And that's a look back at the year 1960.
The rare Saturday meeting of the state school board was to consider possible successors to former post-secondary chancellor Howard Gundy. 9 candidates were set to face the board today, answering questions about their ideas on academic quality, fiscal management, and politics. Obviously, to the board, all important aspects in the job of taking care of the state's technical, community, and junior colleges. John Tyson is acting chairman of the board.
What we're looking for, and again, it may be my more personal view, but we're looking for a strong leader for the 2-year college system in Alabama. My thought is that if we have a strong leader, then a lot of the benefits that can accrue will follow regardless of the kind of system that we may or may not have.
The applicants for the position came from other academic or managerial positions in Alabama, Tennessee, Maryland, and California. But Mr. Tyson says whoever gets the job won't get an easy start.
Oh, I don't think there's any question but what it'll be a tough time. There are all kinds of issues that will be coming up in the next legislature, not the least of which are the budgets. There has been a lot of suggestion around the state that the 2-year college system move in a more modernizing trend, and there will be questions coming before the legislature that have to do with money, and that's always a tough thing. It will be.
The questioning took most of the day, and an official announcement of who the new chancellor will be is not expected until Thursday. Then, whoever is chosen will have to work quickly to prepare for upcoming budget meetings with the state legislature. Tom Foreman, WSFA TV News.
Just sit down and stay down.
I want that sign. Oh, wait right there. I want that sign. There you go.
They will be able to move the bus from point A to point B probably with no problem. But we're concerned that because of their inexperience and their lack of training and safety, that they will not be able to handle the crisis situation when it comes, and it could cause serious injuries. Violence is not, it will not help us at all. It will hurt us probably, if anything.
Okay, around 11:30, we'll finish everything. I was ready to leave the restaurant. And I just walked to the back door. Then 3 guys rushed to me and asked me to go back to the kitchen. Each person held a pistol.